We need to talk about streaks. We need to talk about why counting the days, whether it's 1 or 10 or 100, might be the very thing holding you back. People care about streaks way too much. We've built this entire culture around them, this idea that the higher the number, the better you're doing. We romanticize the idea of getting to as high a streak as possible, 90 days, 150 days, a full year. We put these numbers on a pedestal and worship them. But in doing that, we make a critical mistake. Instead of cutting our addictions, our bad habits out of our lives, those very addictions become the new focus of our lives. The thing we're trying to escape becomes the sun around which our entire world orbits. Let me put it this way. I've never done heroin before. It's just not something that's a part of my life. But you don't see me waking up every single morning, walking over to a giant whiteboard in my room and meticulously updating a counter. I don't erase the old number and write, okay, I haven't done heroin in 17 years and 52 days. And then the next day, great, we're at 17 years and 53 days. Hope I don't mess up today and ruin this incredible streak. No, that would be insane, right? I don't even worry about it. It doesn't cross my mind. And now on no heroin. I just don't do heroin. And that's the entire point. The goal isn't to be the person who is actively not doing the bad habit. The goal is to be the person for whom the bad habit is no longer a relevant part of their existence. It's to get to a place where you don't even think about it anymore because it's just not who you are. And that brings us to the real heart of the matter. The thing that everything else is built on, your identity. Yeah, I know. People throw around that advice all the time, don't they? Just change your identity, bro. It's become this catch-all phrase in the self-improvement space. If you just identify as an athlete, you'll magically start acting like an athlete. If you just tell yourself you're a successful entrepreneur, the money will start rolling in. But that's not how it works. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the cause and effect relationship that governs our lives. You can't just stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and start gaslighting yourself into believing you're some kind of super disciplined monk, or a world-traveling digital nomad, or a seven-figure business owner, when your daily actions tell a completely different story. You can't shout affirmations at your reflection and expect your reality to magically bend to your will. It feels good for a moment, but it's hollow. It's a house built on sand. You don't change your identity by telling yourself who you want to be. You change your identity by building a mountain of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. It's not about words. It's about evidence. It's about receipts. Think about it. When you've played enough Hypixel on Minecraft to be gifted the MVP plus rank on the server, of course you identify as a gamer. You don't have to convince yourself of it. The proof is right there in the countless hours you've poured into the game, in the skills you've developed, in the recognition you've received from the system itself. The identity is just a label for the reality you've already created when you've been smoking so much for the past few months that you've personally made a significant contribution to global warming. Of course, you're going to identify as a smoker. You don't need to affirm it. The pack of cigarettes in your pocket, the lighter you always carry, the faint smell of smoke that clings to your clothes, that's your mountain of proof. It's undeniable, but here's the beautiful part. We can flip it around. We can use this exact same mechanism for good. If you've already gone out and run a full marathon, crossing that finish line after months of training, it's not that hard to identify as a runner. The medal hanging on your wall, the worn-out running shoes by the door, the memory of pushing through the pain at mile 22, that's your proof. The identity is earned when you've put in the hours, the effort, the late nights, and the early mornings to get over 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's not that hard to identify as a YouTuber. The videos you've created, the community you've built, the analytics staring back at you, that's your mountain of undeniable proof. Simply put, your identity is a reflection of what you do. It's a lagging indicator of your actions. You don't change your identity, which then magically changes what you do. You change what you do, and that over time changes your identity. The identity is the consequence, not the cause. It's the summary of the story your actions have been writing down. So, if our identity is just a reflection of our actions, the next logical question we have to ask is a crucial one. Why do we do what we do? Why do we choose these actions in the first place? For me, at least, the reason I played video games for so many years, for thousands and thousands of hours, wasn't just about the flashing lights or the gameplay mechanics. When I dug deep, it came down to two things: friends and the feeling of progress. That's it. It was about the social connection, the camaraderie of being in a team, of working together towards a common goal. And it was about the feeling of leveling up, of getting better, of seeing tangible evidence that my effort was leading to a result. The game was just the vehicle for those two fundamental human needs, and you won't like this part, but you have to genuinely ask yourself the same question. Why do you really do what you do? Why do you indulge in your vice? And don't accept the first easy answer that comes to mind. You have to be that annoying little kid that asks, why? 30 times in a row. Go deeper. At first, it'll be something superficial. I play video games. Why? Because I find it fun. Why? Because I like playing with my friends and achieving things. Why is that important to you? And you keep going, peeling back the layers of the onion, and maybe 20 more whys later, you'll get to something raw and real. You'll get to something like, because my dad left when I was 5. So I never had that sense of strong leadership in my life. And I try to find it by being the party leader in a game of Minecraft Bed Wars. What I'm trying to say is that there's always a deep-rooted reason, a fundamental need that drives our habits. It's almost never about the habit itself. The habit is just the strategy we've stumbled upon to try and meet that need. I'll just read it from the GOAT himself, Jordan Peterson, because he says it perfectly. You can only find out what you actually believe, rather than what you think you believe, by watching how you act. You simply don't know what you believe before that. You are too complex to understand yourself. You might think you know why you engage in that bad habit. You might have a neat little story you tell yourself. But I promise you, you probably don't. Not really. You have to do some deep, uncomfortable searching. I logged on to Minecraft not for the game itself, but for that social connection. The game was the tool, not the goal. So if I had just tried to use willpower to remove Minecraft from my life, I would have always, inevitably, gravitated back towards it or something just like it. Why? Because my underlying need for social connection wasn't being met. The root cause was still there. But if I could find a way to satisfy that need for social connection in a healthier, more constructive way by joining a club, a sports team, a study group, anything, then I wouldn't need the addiction anymore. The addiction's purpose would become obsolete. This is why it so often feels like you're snapping back on a rubber band. You go a couple of days, maybe even a week, doing really well. You're motivated, you're disciplined, you feel like you've finally cracked it. But then, out of nowhere, you snap right back to the old behavior. That's because, yes, you can use willpower and motivation to stop the action for a while. You can white-knuckle your way through it. But if you're not addressing the reason, that deep, underlying need that drives the habit, and if you're not fulfilling it in any other way, you will always snap back to it. The need will scream for attention until you give it what it wants. And your old habit is the easiest, most familiar way to quiet that scream. And this brings us to the most important tactical shift you can make. This is why you cannot kill a habit. You can only replace it. The idea of killing a habit is a myth. It's like trying to create a vacuum in nature. Something will always rush in to fill the void. So instead of thinking, how do I kill this bad habit? How do I eliminate it from my life? I want you to start thinking, why do I do this bad habit? What need is it fulfilling? And is there a healthier, better alternative that still fulfills that same why? Once you've identified the need and found a better way to meet it, that's when you can start to switch the habit. That's when you can start laying the first bricks in your new mountain of undeniable proof. Let's take a classic example. Imagine someone compulsively watches porn and masturbates because At their core, they are profoundly lonely and disconnected. The act itself provides a temporary, artificial sense of intimacy and release from the pain of that loneliness. Now you could try the NoFap approach. You could try to just stop. You could install blockers, get an accountability partner, whatever. You could even, in some cartoonish thought experiment, chop off their, well, they literally can't perform the act anymore. You get rid of all the porn. You've removed the behavior. But have you solved the problem? No, they're still lonely. Nothing fundamental has changed. They're just lonely, except now they're also frustrated and deprived of their old, albeit dysfunctional, coping mechanism. The root cause is untouched. The real solution isn't to focus on stopping the act. It's to address the loneliness. It's to find a replacement strategy. Maybe they start going to a local hobby group or a dance class or a volunteer organization. They start building real, genuine human connections. They start to feel seen and valued. As that new habit of social engagement begins to meet the core need for connection, the old habit of using porn as a substitute becomes less and less appealing. Its power fades. It's not about killing the old habit. It's about making it irrelevant by feeding the need with something better. You replace the empty calories with nutritious food. For a long, long time, all my progress and self-improvement just came from pure, raw motivation. It was a cycle. You know the one? You finish doing the bad habit, and in that moment of post-nut clarity, or post-binge guilt, or post-procrastination regret, you're filled with this sudden, intense wave of revulsion and motivation. You think, oh, why did I do that? I'm so much better than this. That's it. I'm changing. Starting tomorrow, it's a new me. Next 30 days, no bad habits. Only good habits. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to journal. I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat clean. You build this perfect version of yourself in your head. Then the next day comes, the motivation has faded just a little, and you fail. And the cycle repeats. You will never rise to the level of your goals. You will eventually always fall to the level of your identity, your system, your ingrained patterns. So that's what we should be focusing on improving, not the fleeting goals, but the underlying identity. And how do we know what our current identity is? It's simple. Just look at your actions. Look at your calendar, your bank statement, your screen time report over the past week or month. That's who you are. Not who you say you are, not who you want to be, but who your actions prove you to be right now. That's your identity. So here's how you change it. It's not a magic trick. It's a process. First, you have to do the deep, uncomfortable work of introspection. You have to ask why until you hit bone. What is the fundamental need your bad habit is trying to serve? Is it connection? Is it a sense of progress? Is it an escape from stress or boredom? Is it a need for control in a life that feels chaotic? Be brutally honest with yourself. Second, once you've identified the need, you have to brainstorm better, healthier, more constructive ways to meet that same need. This is the replacement strategy. If the need is connection, the replacement could be joining a club. If the need is progress, it could be learning a new skill, like coding or playing an instrument. If the need is to escape stress, it could be starting a regular exercise routine or a meditation practice. Third, you start small. You don't try to become a new person overnight. You just focus on executing the replacement habit. You make it as easy as possible to start. You lay one brick, then the next day you lay another. You're not focused on a 90-day streak. You're just focused on today. You're focused on casting one more vote for the person you want to become. And as you do this, day after day, you are slowly, methodically building that mountain of undeniable proof. Each time you choose the new, healthier habit over the old, dysfunctional one, you are providing evidence to your own brain that your identity is shifting. You're no longer the person who plays video games to feel a sense of progress. You're the person who practices guitar for an hour every day. You're no longer the person who scrolls social media to numb boredom. You're the person who reads 10 pages of a book. The streak doesn't matter. The counting doesn't matter. What matters is the replacement. What matters is addressing the root cause. What matters is the slow, deliberate construction of a new identity, brick by brick, action by action. So forget about the number. Forget about the streak. Focus on the why. Find the replacement. And then just start building. Now it's up to you. Take action, bro.